Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Natural Freedom League. I am John Wydogen, here once again with my producer and co-host, Chill Will Keller.
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Good. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done one of these, so it's kind of nice to get back on the bicycle.
Absolutely, for sure.
And of course, you can find all our work at naturalfreedomleague.com. And today we are excited to welcome Indica Indy Martin, the author of the book Give to Nature and Nature Will Give to You. Hello, Indy.
How you doing, you guys? Thank you, Will and John, for allowing me to join you both today.
Our pleasure.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My career was in early childhood education,
Oh,
and it's been a few years. I ended up leaving and homeschooling my daughter, and then we have a young son, and my wife had gone back to work after she had him. So it's been a few years, but it's definitely a passion of mine still. And I was very impressed with your book. I saw your
well, thank you.
presentation from the Seed Conference,
Thank
and then
you.
I listened to it again today with my son.
Oh, great. Thank
Yeah,
you. That's
uh,
awesome. I love to hear that.
yeah.
That's
And
that,
go ahead, Will.
no, I was gonna say I actually did that with my daughter last night. Usually we read a few stories, and this was like the first time I actually had my phone because I played her your video. So it was like you were reading the
Good.
story to my daughter last night. It was great. It's fantastic,
Oh, that's
and she's
wonderful.
familiar with that book as well.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for doing that. I love to hear those stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually, I kind of cheat. I make a, YouTube playlist of read aloud stories, and then I put them on. I cast them onto the TV for my son, and he
Mhm.
stands there and watches them. So I do read to him myself as well. But it's a good thing to put on if they are going to be watching the the hypnotizing machine.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all love that hypnotizing machine. Not.
I know.
Yeah.
So tell us about your background and what inspired you to write the book.
Well, thank you again for having me on, and I would love to talk to you about that. So, it has been a very interesting and challenging journey for me. Um, and even from a very young age, I've always felt that connection with nature, but it was not supported growing up in the society that I lived in and that you live in. And, I've lived a pretty normal life. I grew up in West Virginia, and my roots come from Czechoslovakia. And actually, my grandfather came over to America to live the life of freedom, right? And early on, I was actually introduced to Wayne Dyer, um, which did help me give some perspective regarding my thoughts and emotions and behaviors. And this paved the way for me to learn and understand more information, uh, to understand what they were saying as far as the various speakers and podcasts and videos. And I began to want to learn more knowledge about subjects that were not taught to me when I was younger and going to school. And I was attracted to those principles in nature because I was so connected to them. And again, it was not talked about anywhere that I ever grew up around. So, fast forward a few years, I discovered I was led by some type of force in nature. And I think that we all have this force of nature in us, but most people don't realize it, so they don't allow it to come forth. And that's definitely something that was taking me on this journey to learn nature's laws and to write this book for children. And the importance of learning this information sooner than I did, which was much later in life. So it's very important for me to keep the focus on what is right and stand firm, and to say no to anything that was taking me another direction. So that's kind of the journey that it took me, where I had to stay very focused on this while working full time doing marketing. And it seemed as though everywhere I went and came in contact with growing up, we were all trapped in this box, okay? um, where the creativity and the correct type of learning was not supported as it should have been. And that's the story that we keep hearing, right? So, and I was taught at the very young age to be somewhat dependent on the programming that was put in front of me, on how to feel, think, and behave, looking at that box, okay? So this was very challenging for me, and I had to care enough to crawl out of that box, okay, while learning more knowledge about how the world worked. And listening to my intuition was very key. So I had to start listening to me instead of listening to everything that was being thrown at me in different directions, okay, as a parent. And realized that I didn't want to listen to anything that was steering me away from the truth. Because, as you know, there are many, many distractions, and I get easily distracted. So that was the journey that took me down the road to write this children's book, because I love children. They're very innocent, ages 1 to 7, and we can talk about this in a little bit. But they are totally relying on us. They have no one but the parents. And a lot of parents just put their kids in the hands of other people to raise them. And what a big mistake that is, right? So I wanted to help parents and um, also put this in front of children so they can have that basis, or that type of the principles right in front of them, even if they can't speak the words. If they're 3 years old and they're looking at the word metamorphosis or mentalism, and they don't speak yet those big words, putting those words in front of them and being able to repeat this over and over with them, it is amazing the transformation that happens. They'll start speaking those words, and they'll have a better understanding how the world works and how nature's laws are set forth in our world to create morality, and to just share how the world works. And that's so important, because if you don't know, you're totally confused growing up, and you believe whatever somebody tells you, which is what I did. I believed whatever was told to me, like, you know what? And I don't want kids to do that. I want them to know. And I want adults to help them understand. So I'm very passionate about this. And um, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's great. That's excellent. I wanted to touch on first of all what you said about the voice, the calling of for your passion to do that. That's huge. That's kind of dismissed nowadays, right? I mean, even
True.
with small children, when they're using their imagination, it's kind of demeaning, and it's neglected, right?
Right.
It reminds me of having an imaginary friend, and how that can take you straight into a psychiatrist's office when
Right.
right, when it's just using your imagination. But my point being, obviously, in your later years, you're having that passion and that call, and that's ultimately what we need to listen to, and give kids the tools, the psychological tools, for them to know their consciousness and how it operates, and how to operate in nature itself, and hear that voice inside and go after their passions and tackle it. So that's a phenomenal story.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
I had a funny thought about, what we do is we go out and we try to just give people information about natural law. It's not a protest as much as, it's protest in the positive sense. We're actually giving people an alternative to the problems, and trying to address the root issues, and really just trying to educate people. And I thought it would be really awesome to have your book out there, because just
Oh,
listening to it with my son, I was thinking, I mean, this is a really simple way for adults to learn this too. And I think it could be really effective actually with all ages.
absolutely. I did have that ulterior motive that when parents read this to children, that they would be like, "Oh, I didn't know this," or "I didn't know this. Oh, wow, this is important." Or maybe it would start to help them as adults. I did have that ulterior motive, but and I I just wanted something that parents could spend time with their children and be able to spend that quality time together. And this is so important to me when I say this, you guys. Most two-year-olds can't read, and I'm sure that most of you out there would agree. But when you put this image or this book or any words or images or symbols in front of them, they're not going to be able to say, "Oh, that's what you showed me yesterday, Dad," or "This is what you read to me yesterday, Mom." And they're not going to be able to repeat it back to you because of their age. That's why repetition is so important with this type of information at a very young age. That's why young kids before the age of 7 can speak 3 languages fluently. And you try to teach 3 languages to a child that's over the age of 8, it's very difficult.
Hmm.
That's why you have to do it when they're very, very young. And we didn't know this. I didn't know this, but now I do. And just imagine if you're putting this information in front of them when they're 2 and 3, and when they're 4 years old, they're talking about mentalism or
Hmm.
polarity. I mean, you'd be like, whoa, I didn't talk about polarity till I was in my 40s. So I, that's just would be amazing to have them understand these principles of nature at a very young age so they can understand where they are and who they are, which is very important for them to understand how important they are to this planet and what they're here to do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I did it. So,
That's awesome. One thing that I love about this book, it allows for the parents to grow with their child and learn with their child. A lot of people ask me, Will, you're into nature and stuff. What are some good curriculums? Here's the book. Here's your curriculum. Understand these principles and the information in this book, and share it, and show and give your child experiences, because that's what this book is about. It's about operating in the natural world and within yourself. And that's powerful. And like you said, they don't teach this stuff in school, in public school. Hands down, they definitely do not. And most kids can recognize 100 or over 100 corporate logos, but can't identify 10 plants.
right.
I mean, that says something right there. So, yeah, it's real powerful.
Yeah, it's up to the parents completely. And if anybody thinks that they can put their child in any type of institution and just kind of let it go, and hopefully they'll teach them, it's not right. It's just not right to do that. Parents have got to spend time with their children and teach them. They they just kind of are getting lazy with this part of it, and it's unacceptable because they're going to listen to whatever they're told before the age of 7 in a preschool, in kindergarten, first grade. And if they have nothing to compare it to, oh, my mom said this, or my mom taught me this, or my dad read this to me, they're not going to have anything to compare it to if parents don't take the time to do this. And I'm not saying it's just my book. I'm just saying the information, period, of life and how it works, and everything is so important to learn at a very young age. Don't wait until they're 8 years old. I mean, it's almost too late. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying that if you have the opportunity to start when they're 2 and 3 and do that repetition, that's the key, is the repetition. Then they'll start doing it, just like I said. So it's kind of common sense, but we're not taught to do that. We're just not. We set our children in front of these devices and these screens, and they're like babysitters. And there's all kind of images that are being forced down our children's throats and eyes, what they see and what they hear. And there's all kind of subliminal types of messages and advertising that is going on. And that's what needs to stop. It's They don't know what they're looking at, and the parents are clueless. They just, well, everybody else is doing it.
Mhm.
So I'm going
Yeah.
to do it. So,
Yeah, that's the issue, right? Just going
right.
with the flow. And like
Going
you
with the
said,
flow.
repetition. So
Yeah.
just imagine uh preschool, kindergarten, all the way elementary school, right? These are the formative years, and what is the repetition, right? It's atomizing and quantifying kids into a little tiny box when kids are unique and they have their own individual creative expression. They learn different, they express differently. I mean, it's amazing. You can't just stick them all together in just one bunch, one
Right.
age group, one class. So
That's right.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about the approach that you're taking. There was this program that was actually sold kind of mainstream. It was called Your Baby Can Read. And when my daughter was young, we got it for her. My mom bought it, and it was basically like flashcards, and it was videos, but it was words like gorilla and giraffe
Yes.
and all these just random words, but they actually weren't random. They were it's called like sight words. So there's certain words that you just memorize. You don't really sound them out,
Hmm.
and then the philosophy of the program was that the kids would recognize the pattern of language. But I know that from creating curriculum at these preschools out here, which were pretty quality childcare centers. I mean, we did give good curriculum to these children. We would
Sure.
have like life skills programs, and
That's
so you'd
great.
have like a life skill a month, or that you would focus on. And I always thought of children's books in those sense, and this was before I had discovered a lot of the knowledge about natural law. But it's kind of the same idea. It's teaching morality in some sense. And then also, I used to do a curriculum on different musicians, the musicians of the month. And each month you would play a different musician, and I'd have their picture with their name. And yeah, these little kids would know like Mozart and Beethoven, and
Right.
those are big concepts. And so the idea of now promoting these ideas of objective morality and laws of nature
Right.
is something that kids can I mean, they are programmable. So what are we programming them with, right?
Right. So, hey, a great idea would be to create some flashcards with these types of topics for children. Hey, that's a great idea, right?
It is.
Excellent idea.
It
Sounds like
is.
Right,
a future project, Indy.
right. There you go.
And think
And I
about
hope,
the symbols, right? I mean, when you talk
right,
about what the subliminal messaging, that's all done through symbols and
exactly.
repetition. And so we know the techniques. These are the mind control techniques, So how are we using mind control to program our children? Because that is ultimately what we are doing. I mean, we're not trying, it's not necessarily to control them, but again, it's to lead them to certain values and things that we
Absolutely.
think are important.
Yes, yes. And it's just like what you said with the flashcards, with the gorilla. Well, of course, it's important for them to know what a gorilla looks like, right? Or a cat or a dog. But just imagine the symbols, and imagine the words and imagine pictures of a child, you know, doing something that is like a moral type of thing that you want them to learn, and it's showing you on that flashcard, this is selfishness, this is caring, this is, whatever it is, it's not being done enough. There's not enough out there that is being taught to them regarding these types of principles. And I know that you all agree with me, and that's going to change. So we're going to change it together, and or that's why we're doing what we're doing here today, right?
Absolutely. Excellent. Well said.
Exactly. So, why is it important for children to learn about nature and especially in nature?
Sure. Well, I think that it's a proven fact that children have no idea what they're looking at until someone explains it to them. And I think that personally, from the ages of 1 to 7, it should be a parent or some type of adult, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, how could they possibly be able to comprehend right versus wrong? How would they be able to comprehend that unless the parents were educated with the knowledge and principles of nature, excuse me, instead of listening to everyone else and what they're doing and going along with the crowd? So, no matter where I turn, and this is just how it is, children have no choice but to go along with what choices are made in the home, regardless of if it's causing harm or not. They have no choice. They're they have no choices. That's why I really wanted to do this. So when I was doing my research, this is where I get a little glimmer of hope here. I started to look into schools about nature. Okay. And I had no idea what I would find. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that there are hundreds of schools based in nature in our country and in the world. And these have come about in the past 5 to 10 years. And it's funny that you never hear about these types of schools or the curriculums that they are teaching. And the reason I wanted to talk about this with you guys today is because this type of school, and they're also called forest schools, like a forest, like a tree forest, is because it helps promote that holistic development of children, and it promotes confidence, independence, creative thinkers, and creative learners. And it also provides them to take the opportunity to enjoy and experience outside in nature. For example, they have their classes outside, not inside, outside. Um, and let's say that it's raining outside. They sit in the rain and do studies in the rain while they're getting muddy. You can research it yourself and anybody out there listening. Just go to forest schools or nature schools, and you can see their curriculums and what they're teaching. But it's great to be in the mud while you're in class. I think that would be so much fun, especially if you're dressed for it. So any type of, oh wait, another type, like I said, the forest schools. These also, when I said that it was in the forest, um, this is also for young adults too. So it's not just for little preschool, but it's for grade school and, a little bit older. So I wanted to say that too, because of, you know, we don't want to just teach our little tiny children. We want to have them keep learning. So I thought that that was very interesting. So, um, it seems as though this door of learning principles in nature, isn't accessible to the public, as you know, because you know what the public is offering. So it seems like the public is only offering this negative and unacceptable subconscious programming that is literally being thrown at them every day. So as parents or guardians of these children, like I said before, I've heard them say, well, all the kids are doing it, all the kids have one, so my kid's going to have one because they're going to feel weird if they don't have one, or they don't have the internet or whatever. And this is a world where principles need to come first, and that's why this has to start at a very young age. So it's important to understand that once you give them this little screen, you know what I'm talking about, it's connected to social media, the phone, texting, internet, gaming, everything that's taking their time and attention away from those principles in nature. And it's the choice of the parents to as to what their child sees and hears, with their ears, and what their child is supposed to be learning or working with, or their playtime, what they're doing. So I think that that is, um, a road that, if I was a young parent right now, it would be extremely challenging, but it's up to the parents to go into full time parenting, um, because they're going to go off into their room and do their own little thing. And it's not going to have anything to do with what we're talking about here today, unless you set the stage and you make it fun and you spend time with them as a parent or a guardian or an adult. Otherwise, it's just going to go down the road of where, and we don't want that, you don't want that, and we need to stop it. So we need to take our time and attention to principles of nature. That's all there is to it.
I love it. Forest schools, and I've heard about these schools, and my daughter's mom and I are looking into these out here in California, and that is, I mean, that is the natural way to learn, to be out in the
Yes.
natural world with these experiences and principles, like you said. First things first. Um, Parents, I think the biggest thing that parents need to understand too is that, a lot of it comes down to their own conditioning. They need to um, unlearn what they think is right and wrong, on a moral level, but also on what culture has programmed parents to do. Well, this is just how kids
Absolutely.
go. Mom and dad both work, and kid goes to school for 8 hours a day, and now they have to wear a mask. It's just how things are. That's a cop out, and that's extremely neglectful. Um, so instead of the TV, parents need to binge watch their kids and invest that time and make that commitment, because your child's worth it for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing else that's more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that this book, again, putting it into um, the hands of somebody who doesn't know anything about what we're talking about, it perhaps can inspire people through their children to see that, I don't have to go along with this system. I have been doing it wrong. I have been misled. Because if, the care of your children doesn't inspire you, probably nothing will,
Mhm.
but we have these people that, they say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I have to work. I have to make money, and, people gonna go line up and take some pharmaceutical product because, I have to travel, and it's the same concept. But again, if someone reading this and realizing the importance of teaching this to children, maybe it will spark that inspiration in them.
That's
I,
my goal.
I think it has the power to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think your book is so powerful. Just for exactly what John was saying,
Thank
it can
you.
spark and reunite that bond between parent and child, but or children, but also reunite the human aspect with nature, because we are part of nature. We are one with nature, and it's not, we're not separate. So having that knowledge is crucial for evolution, both for your child and yourself and the aggregate of the human species, for sure.
Yeah, and this is not to put any parents on guilt trips. I'm not for that whatsoever. We've all been led down a wrong road. Of It's very, very wrong. Okay, and it's been done to us. And there's not one person that I know that it hasn't been done to. Uh, it's just very unfortunate. But when you realize and you care enough to look into it, you'll find other ways to teach and learn and spend time and gather that knowledge so you can help them get through life, because it's not easy. And just because they turn 18 doesn't mean you stop being a parent. You're always going to be there. And that's another thing, is when kids turned 18, they were out the door,
Mm.
or they were off somewhere else, you know. And I think that I'm going to be a parent for the rest of my life. It's not, there's no question about it. I'm here to learn what I can to help my kids, my grandkids, and try to help in any way possible. I'm not here to say anything's been wrong. People have been led down a wrong path, and it's been done purposely, obviously. Okay. It's very obvious to me. It's common sense. It's been done to us. So we have a choice. We have freedom of choice. And we have that choice what to teach our kids and what to put them in front of and what they hear and see and feel. It's just it's just the way it is. Even if we work full time, we have a choice of where they go during the day. We have a choice. We have to do the best that we can and make it as, always the best that we can, because they're worth it. They have no choice. They don't have anybody looking out for them except for you as a parent. Nobody else is going to look out for them.
Yeah. And it's definitely good to to have a balance of acknowledging and having informative information about the problem, and also provide solutions as well, because obviously
Absolutely.
the first point to solving any kind of problem is to not be in denial and recognize that there is a problem. So, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. So, how do you raise your consciousness? Consciousness is pattern recognition. You need to take in more information, not just more, correct information, knowledge, and then apply that. And this is one solution. Your book, and then the things that we're talking about today.
Very well said. Very well said.
Talking about the formative years, I saw in your presentation at the Seed 4 conference, you mentioned Bruce Lipton, and that he kind of has a breakdown of like 0 to 7, and then probably 7 to 14 or 13, something like that. That reminds me, I don't know if Bruce Lipton is influenced at all by Rudolf Steiner, but Rudolf Steiner had a similar idea that, and he matched it up with the losing of your teeth.
Ugh,
Like there was a spiritual transition that happened once you
yeah.
had all your adult teeth around 7 years old, and and that the way Steiner would lay it out is 0 to 7 is them just kind of mimicking everything. They just are like, repeating everything they see pretty much. And then 7 to 14, he considered, I, I would best describe it as sort of like a mentor stage, I guess,
Mhm.
where you have someone you're working under, or that's like an authority figure, so but I find it interesting to think about that in terms of how we raise our kids. If you have that awareness that, like, here at this stage, this is your job is to program them, like good input, and good, give them a good example, obviously, right? And it overlaps, obviously, but to know that, like, from that 7 to 14 stage, you maybe want to shift your focus to be a little bit more of maybe teaching certain things that they're interested in, certain skills or something like that. But I don't know, what you do, know a lot about Bruce Lipton's work?
I know somewhat about Bruce Lipton, and I know how long he's been doing the research and the books that he has, the videos that he has, but that's just one researcher that I gravitate towards. But everybody has their own type of research that they do. So I never want to push or say, you need to listen to Bruce Lipton. It's just that's the road where my research took me. And I don't have any background with children in my life, as far as my own children, but not teaching, and certainly not consciousness. But whenever I'm listening to something and it's resonating with my spirit, I feel it. So that's my intuition speaking to me, and I'm listening to it. So that's what I do now. I don't listen to anything out there coming at me. But talking about Bruce Lipton, and I did talk about this, but it's important to understand the stages of consciousness. And I'm going to repeat these. They are, number one is delta, from 1 to 2 years. And theta is the next stage, which is theta, and it's 2 to 6 years. And this is the critical stages right here, you guys. 2 to 6 is the critical stage. Um, this is the critical thinking stages, and alpha, which is 6 to 12. And that's calm consciousness. And when you look at Bruce Lipton's experience and his research into this topic of consciousness, I have looked at other researchers, and it does resonate with me personally. So it's very apparent to me that from the outside looking in, that parents seem to allow a large percentage of programming that is available and very easily accessible for them to purchase, whether it be on television, um, internet, games, like I was stating before, and institutions that seem to push, certain types of programs, and make it very available for the parents, um, for them to do with their children. And just because they're offering it to the children or offering it to the parents just take it, like they just take it, and they don't question it. And these forms of babysitting, and entertaining the children, you know, are being offered to the parents, like I stated, before the age of 7. They're taking it without question. They're not researching it. They're not deciding, oh, I wonder what the long term effects of them doing this, or or them playing this on this screen, or I wonder what the long-term effects are, that they're not even thinking about that. They're not looking into it. I'm not saying that all parents aren't like that. There's many parents that do care, but the percentages are very um, uneven, let's just say. So that is a very big concern. And I don't know, I don't know what to say else about the that, because it's just so important during those years. And I didn't know it when my son was younger. I didn't know anything, but nobody said anything to me and nobody taught me. And so I was that little girl who just believed whatever she was told was true, like my parents who didn't know either. But now we do know. And if we do hear it as a parent, it's up to us um, to look into this and see if there's any truth to it. And if there is, um, maybe we should think differently and try some different things, and just do the best that you can. It's not something that just happens overnight. These are steps of consciousness that kind of go like a staircase. You learn this, and then you learn this, and then you learn this, and I'm not done. I got a lot more stairs to go. So I'm just in this journey of the self, and this is where it took me.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I think most parents would say, yes, I want the best for my child.
Absolutely.
So you can actually care. You can have a lot of care there, but you can also be wrong, because most people, they want the best for their child, so let the experts, you know raise my child or educate my child, send them to
Yep.
school, to college, and all that. That's not necessarily the correct and right thing to do in most cases. I mean, if you have a good grasp on what's going on. Um, but kind of touching on the formative years, which I agree with you, I mean, that is crucial. And there's a lot of parents that came to a certain level of awareness later on, and they have teenagers and stuff, but yet it still applies. And what I'm talking about are these two mindsets: the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. A growth mindset is someone that's seeking knowledge for improvement, and challenges help them grow. Failure is an opportunity to grow, right? This is a state of mind. This is a level of consciousness. A fixed mindset is failure is the limit of my abilities, or when they get frustrated, they quit. I stick to what I know, playing it safe, that kind of stuff, right? These are two different types of state of minds. And it's real important for parents to kind of dive into these, because these are known mindsets in psychology, to for the parents themselves to get in a growth mindset, which equates to evolution and actually freedom, right? And then
Right,
and
right.
promote that to their child, that growth mindset. Um, and I think, with indoctrination, public schools, and culture nowadays, the system, it is there to get us into a fixed mindset. They're giving you what they want you to know, regurgitate, and implement in your behavior, output in your behavior. So that's the main problem. So it doesn't matter what age your child is, can be a grown adult, you still have influence, because a parent is truly a mentor. We're an
Absolutely.
influencer, right? We're an influencer. Yes, the formative years, that's that opportunity to get that good, moral, correct input in there. But if you've missed that, it's not done yet. Like you said, we're always a parent. We're always parents for sure. And leading by example is extremely important. So I wanted to touch on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
I didn't learn any of this, to be honest with you,
Oh, I
until
I have no degree in child psychology or nothing like that. I'm a
yeah.
dad, but one thing that I do know at a good level is how nature works and how the mind works. I'm not saying I know it all, but that's the kicker. Most people, people can know stuff and not have, you know, a framed piece of paper or a white
Right.
coat on,
Degree,
right? We can
degree, right?
actually learn and understand stuff. This is what
Absolutely.
knowing is. So that's really important for parents to understand, and you know, it's on them, uh, depending on what age group your child is at, their responsibility.
Understood.
Yeah, that's a great point you make, Will, because to spark that inspiration to want to grow is so important. And I think that fear is what holds people back from engaging in that and initiating in that. And like you said, it's just easier to go along, with the status quo. It's like when I tried to give a family member some information on the dangers of pharmaceutical products, and she told me I would rather not know. And it's like that's the mindset. And how do you spark that initiation towards growth? And I really think a book like this is very powerful in that sense, just because the medium that it is, a kid's book. I mean, it's a really authentic kid's book, well put together, um, but touching on these topics that are really profound. I mean, one of our sayings is, simplify the profound. Like, that's what we kind of focus on with Natural Freedom League. It's really trying to get the message on a sign in 7 words, like,
Mhm.
that's gonna like inspire someone to go, huh, what is a right? Where do my rights come from? And
Gee, I never
um
really thought about it before.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I there was a buddy of mine who said, he said, it'd be good if someone wrote like a simple book about natural law, like just a simple explanation. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That is
Yeah.
a good idea. And then I saw yours and I'm like, this is it.
There it
And,
is.
and that's what I want to do. I want to spark those simple ideas that you're talking about. I want to I want to spark that in other people to do other projects and use their imagination. There's so much. I was even thinking about making an app on my phone, a natural law app, uh, but that was a little bit complicated for kids to get on and because they like the computers and the handheld devices, and I thought about doing that. So hopefully somebody will take that idea, just like a trivia type of game for natural law, and that way you learn the answers and you can do this with your kids, ask them questions and play with them and see who gets the most answers right. It's just a game, but it's just a way to use your imagination to try to figure out different things to do.
Yes,
Exactly.
I love that. That's that growth mindset, right? I mean,
Right.
not everybody has to do a video or a podcast and,
Mhm.
you know, and put it out there. There's unlimited uh, things that we can do, just understanding yourself and your abilities, and then, put action on that and act and put something out. That's why I love this book. You're a true leader and a teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So why don't you fill us in on any upcoming projects, or just also where we can reach you, where people can find your work?
Yeah, so basically I have a website and it's called www.givetonaturebbook.com, and all of my information on is on there. My book, you can purchase it, and I'm actually having a special right now, and I'm prolonging that from last weekend, and also I have 3 other versions, which is French, Spanish, and Italian. And these are digital versions that I hope to bring to reality to books. So I'm really going to be pushing that very, very soon. It's very involved to try to get your information to other countries and get that information in front of them. But I'm going to do it. And so if anybody out there knows of any languages or they speak English and German or English and Chinese or English and Japanese or whatever, and they want to do some great work, they can do a translation of my book and I'll put it into works and we'll get it happening. So I'm going to be doing some children's readings at different types of events, which is something I've been wanting to do for about a year and a half now. But based on everything happening, it's been very difficult. And this is something that I've always wanted to do in person. So I'm really going to be focusing on that and just keep doing the work of the great work of getting this information out in any way, shape, or form and inspiring others to do it as well.
That's phenomenal. I love it.
Thank you.
What a great talk, and
Thank you.
thank you for coming on here. I'm extremely grateful, and I appreciate you and all your work. And
Thank you so much.
the book is
I appreciate
phenomenal.
your work too. Thank you so much. I really
you.
do appreciate it coming from you guys. It's wonderful, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
That's all right.
it means a lot to me.
You can always interrupt for compliments. I'm down. No, I'm just playing.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I highly recommend people check out this book, and we'll put all the links in the description. And thank you for coming on, Indy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you guys have a wonderful day, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and thank you, Will.
Thanks, bro.
And always remember, put something good in the air and plant something good in the earth. Peace.
We be the natural freedom league, cause we become no longer unbegun. We seek in the wisdom, and that's why we did come to this prison of prism. And that's why the beat thumps, and that's why we speak up. We be the natural freedom league, cause we become no longer unbegun. We seek in the wisdom, and that's why we did come to this prison of prism. And that's why the beat thumps, and that's why we speak up. We be the